Previously on Historical Geocaching. I'm visiting Mission San Luis in Tallahassee, Florida, an amazing living history museum that preserves the stories of the Spanish and Appalachian Native Americans in the late 1600s. Most recently, I've explored the fort, experienced a weaponry demonstration, and learned about what foods the soldiers ate back then. Hello! Is this the blacksmith shop?
This is the blacksmith shop. Welcome.
Thank you.
How are you today?
Very good.
Right. I'm Santiago del Campo, the master blacksmith.
Pleasure to meet you.
I was just resting up for a few minutes after my lunch. We Spaniards like our siesta.
Certainly.
There. Now back to work. I am Santiago del Campo, the master blacksmith. I was sent along with my journeyman one from our home forge in Havana, Cuba, to work for the carpenters who are building the palisade around the blockhouse. That large white building up there is the blockhouse. I think you just came from there. And the fence made of logs that surrounds it is the palisade. The blockhouse is a fortified building because the walls are thick and strong enough to withstand musket fire and arrows. It was built in 1695 and 1696, and it was built to stand alone as our only fortification. But not too long after that, His Majesty ordered that the palisade be built. Then His Majesty Carlos II, Charles II, passed away in 1700, and his successor, Quito, Philip V, finally in 1702 contracted with us to come up here and support the carpenters to get that work done. So we support the carpenters, and you can probably guess what we have to make a lot of because we are working for carpenters. We make quite a few nails.
And so then what you were just doing was giving heat to the fire there?
Air
Air.
to the fire so that the charcoal will burn hot. That's what provides the heat.
Okay.
The bellows are an air pump. And this style of bellows is the Spanish style with the two bags. And if the strokes are timed properly, you get an almost constant flow of air to the fire. A lot of people frequently ask me where the iron comes from. There are no mines anywhere near here. Well, the iron, when we first established these missions in the 1650s, the iron was all Spanish iron. It came from the mines in the north and the northeast of Spain, near the mountains. But in the time since then, we have fought quite a few wars, and taxes have risen because His Majesty does have to pay his soldiers. And because of that, the economy has suffered. And a lot of businesses have closed. My cousin Antonio grid has sent me a message telling me that several of the mines have closed. And His Majesty has ordered that all cargo leaving Spain for the colonies will leave from Sevilla, which is a southwestern port. Sevilla is at least 200 leagues from even the nearest of the mines. Are you familiar with the Spanish League? Well, I believe that you use the mile as a measure.
I've heard of that before.
And the league is 2 of them. So 200 leagues would be about 400 miles. I say about because the league is not exactly 2 miles, but it's very close to it. But that makes the iron very expensive by the time it gets to the port, because the transportation of that heavy cargo is going to have to be by ox cart. And oxen are very strong beasts, but they're not fast. On a decent roadway, oxen can make between 10 and 12 miles in a day. But they can haul a heavy load.
So then would the metal only be used for military or official governmental purposes, or could the people who lived here also buy the metal if they had the money?
Anyone can purchase it, but priority is given to the army and to the church when the supply is short. And it must have been very short when we first came here, because we arrived early in 1702 and were not able to start working at the time because we had no iron. But when we did receive the iron, then we did get to work. And now, as summer approaches of 1703, we're nearing completion.
That's fantastic.
With the expense of transporting the iron, our purchasing agents have discovered that it's more economical to buy from the Swedish and German merchants who call at the ports of Cadiz and Sevilla, Cadiz being another southwestern port not very far from Sevilla. Load that iron onto a Spanish ship leaving from Sevilla and ship it to the Viceroy, whose headquarters were in Havana. The Viceroy maintains the royal warehouses, and it is from those warehouses that I order my iron. So this nail that I'm making is made from probably either Swedish or German iron. Like it may be getting close to completion. Now this tool right here is my nail header, and that hole is a gauge I use to tell if I've hammered this out sufficiently, and it's going all the way to the shoulder that way and all the way to the shoulder that way, so that part's done. Now I have to make a cut in it so that I can separate the nail from the stock that it's made from. So I need my cutting tool, and this is it. This is a hot cut Hardy. It's called hot cut because it's intended to cut hot metal, not cold. And it's called Hardy because it fits in that square hole in the handle, which is called the Hardy hole. When my helpers are here, one of them would be pumping these bellows and shoveling the coal, and With that help, I could make between 200 and 250 of these nails in a day. One could make a like number. So on a really good day, if we did nothing but make nails, we could put out 500 of them. That is probably more than the carpenters could use on most days, because their supply of wood is slow in coming, because they're getting their wood from about 10 leagues to the north at the edge of the woods. There are no trees around here because this is cleared for farmland. But you would see, if you were to look around, there'd be nothing but corn and beans and squash. No trees. I'm going to place that on the party and strike it. And I've left just a small strand connecting that nail to the stock. And one more heat and the nail will be made.
So how would you differentiate from the head of the nail to the more narrow part beneath it? Would you be using hammers and anvils to change the shape?
I just did.
Okay.
I just did. I drew it out. That's what the process is called, is drawing out, hammering it on the side to make it longer and thinner. I drew out the shaft of the nail to the point that it would pass through the hole in the header. And I have cut above the part that will become the head. Good afternoon, welcome to the blacksmith shop. And now I'm heating it up. I will wring it off in the header, and then I'll hammer the head.
The head?
So that's the procedure. And I'll put this cutting tool away because I'm finished with it for the moment. I'm just about to finish up making a nail. Bring it off, back in the fire, get the anvil seated, and then nail. And we have a nail. Now, normally I would knock these out of the header onto the floor and let them cool naturally. But if I did that, you wouldn't be able to hold it and see what it looks like. So I've cooled it in the water, and it is warm but not hot. Look at it if you like. And I can make between 200 and 250 of those in a day when I have a well-trained helper to work for me. And my helpers would be...
Would they be journeymen?
No. They would not be blacksmiths at all. They would be helpers. They would be Appalachian boys, probably between the age of maybe 12 and 15. And I would not be able to hire a Spanish boy because they would be busy learning the cattle trade from their fathers. The Appalachian boys would be glad to get to work, provide some money for their families.
Cool. Thank you so much. Well, I think this about wraps up my time here visiting Mission San Luis, an amazing living history museum here in Tallahassee, Florida, sharing the stories of how the Spanish and Appalachian Native Americans lived together and their lives intertwined in the late 1600s and early 1700s. Sure hope you had fun watching these videos, at least have as much fun as I did making them and visiting here in real life. I want to say a big thanks to all of the friendly interpreters who shared so much, so willingly, of the history of this site with me, as well as the staff in general who did give me special permission to film here, so thank you so much for that. If you ever have the chance, I highly recommend visiting this history museum in real life. I'll be sure to put a link in the description below to the website. Till next time, this is History Buff T and Photobug signing out. I'm indeed having a blast with the past.